All right, today we are diving into what is, no exaggeration, the single biggest shakeup to federal government contracting in over 40 years. It's being called the Revolutionary FAR Overhaul, and believe me, it's about to change just about everything you thought you knew about how the US government buys things.
I mean, just think about that for a second. What if you could take 4 decades of dense, complicated, and let's be honest, kind of confusing regulations and just revamp the whole thing in just 6 months? It sounds completely wild, right?
Well, surprise, this isn't just some thought experiment. It's really happening. Thanks to an executive order aimed at restoring common sense to federal procurement, the government is on a mission to slash through all that red tape and actually make the process simple and, usable again.
Okay, so let's get into it. What exactly is this overhaul, and what massive problem is it trying to fix?
So, the FAR, the Federal Acquisition Regulation, is basically the rulebook for anyone who wants to do business with the federal government. But after 40 years, it's become this absolute maze of rules. It's slow, it's complicated, and it often just slams the door on innovative companies that can't afford a whole team of lawyers to figure it out. And this quote from the executive order really gets to the heart of it. The new philosophy is just simple. If a rule isn't required by law or absolutely essential to do good business, then it's gone. It's basically a mandate to take a giant pair of scissors to the government's rulebook. So, how on earth is the government making these huge changes so incredibly fast? Well, the answer lies in this really powerful and kind of unique regulatory tool. They're using something called a class deviation. You can think of it like a regulatory fast pass. Instead of spending years going through the normal slow-motion rulemaking process, agencies can use these deviations to put new, streamlined rules into effect almost immediately. It's a total game changer. And the scale here is just massive. We're not talking about a couple of minor tweaks. In the first phase alone, the Department of War is rolling out 31 of these class deviations. 31. And they all go into effect on February 1st, 2026. This isn't some small test run. It's a full-on overhaul that touches everything. So the process itself is actually pretty straightforward, but it's happening at lightning speed. It starts with the president's order. Then the FAR Council cranks out the new, simpler rules. Agencies grab them and adopt them, and poof, they're live. It's regulatory change moving faster than we've ever seen before. So, what do these new common sense rules actually look like in the real world? Let's dive into some of the specifics. The changes to FAR Part 1, the very first chapter of the rulebook, show a huge philosophical shift. It's all about speed, efficiency, and empowering people to make smart decisions. And check out that last point. A 4-year sunset clause. If a rule isn't rejustified, it just vanishes. How revolutionary is that? And here's a perfect example of what that looks like. FAR Part 31, which is all about contract costs. They literally just chopped out over 1,300 words of redundant, non-essential language. The goal wasn't to change the law, but just to make it so a normal human being can actually read and understand it. All right, now for the part that I know a lot of you have been waiting for. Let's talk about one of the biggest, most watched parts of this overhaul, FAR Part 19. This is the part that governs small business contracting, and we're going to do a deep dive right now. The stated goal for changing FAR Part 19 sounds simple enough, right? Make it easier for contracting officers to actually work with small businesses. Before, the rules were kind of all over the place. Now, they've reorganized the whole thing to follow the life cycle of a contract, from start to finish, which should make it a heck of a lot more intuitive. Okay, let's break this down because this is really, really important. The big fear was that the rule of two, that's the rule that mandates setting aside work for small businesses, was going to get thrown out. Well, it wasn't. For new standalone contracts, it is still mandatory. But, and this is a huge but, when we're talking about orders under those big existing multiple award contracts, the game has totally changed. For those, the decision to set aside is now up to the contracting officer's discretion. And here's the kicker. Their decision not to set aside an order can't be protested anymore. That is a major, major shift. So, just to hammer these key changes home, the rule of two is now a split personality. It's different for contracts than it is for orders. A huge headache is gone, since businesses don't have to recertify their size for every single little order. And we're seeing some important tweaks to the 8A program that are really designed to boost competition and flexibility. So, after all that, what does this actually mean for you? Whether you're working inside the government or you're a contractor trying to navigate this, how do you deal with this brand new landscape? Here's what you absolutely need to remember. First, don't forget these are class deviations. That means you have to check the specific rules for the agency you're working with. The GSA's rules might be slightly different from the Department of War's. Second, a ton of the how-to information has been moved into new buying guides. You're going to want to read those. They're essential. And finally, the whole point of this is to swing the doors wide open for more innovation and new players. And that really leaves us with the million-dollar question, doesn't it? This is a bold, fast, and truly revolutionary attempt to fix a system that's been in place for 40 years. Will giving people more power and slashing the rules lead to smarter, faster buying? Or are we just creating a whole new kind of confusion by removing all the old guardrails? Only time will tell.